I don't know if it's gonna start counting the time or. All right, we're rolling.
Okay, well, everybody, welcome to the very first episode of More Layers. I am Jordan Smith.
And I'm Seth Mariano.
And we thought we'd talk about the things, or rather, actors or characters that have been an inspiration to us.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, just talking, sharing some ideas, maybe some laughs along the way, and we've got all kinds of stuff we have been talking about over this series. So hopefully you'll find it interesting. Hopefully you'll find it engaging, and yeah, I think this is going to be fun.
I definitely think so, and with how everyone had to go through what was 2020, they definitely need some uplifting stuff right now.
Yeah, that could be helpful. Yeah.
Very much so. All right, so I don't know about you, but I kind of made a sort of makeshift list of people and characters that have inspired me to some degree in the past. I don't know if you did something similar.
Not really. I mean, I thought briefly for a little bit. I think you're talking about what the main topic we're going to go into for this episode, right? I'm guessing.
I'm sorry, say that again?
So you're talking about, brainstorming or whatever for the topic, the big idea that we're going to be discussing in this episode?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you wrote down a list to prepare?
Yeah, of some of the people and or characters that have inspired me in past times.
All right. That'll probably be interesting. I didn't really do that. I pretty much just thought to myself, I want to talk about somebody, but I'm not sure who, to best illustrate the points I might want to make,
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I thought of at least a couple of them, and now, in a little bit, that we can get to those. So,
okay.
So, you're probably gonna want to make sure that you get plenty of rest tonight, because you know what tomorrow is?
Let's see, tomorrow is Sunday. So,
right.
So what's on Sunday other than church?
The beginning of daylight savings.
Yeah, true. I keep forgetting about that.
Ooh.
I actually had some people still ask me how daylight savings works. So the phrase I usually give them is spring forward, fall backward.
Yeah, I think that's usually probably the go-to mnemonic device. Spring forward, and then for standard, fall back. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Although, are both times considered daylight savings, or is one of them daylight savings, then the other one just resets it?
Well, I think when it gets close to spring, they call it daylight savings, and then late October, early November is when what they call the standard period. That's when that kicks off.
I think they originally had that for. Somebody told me it was like farmers to have more sunlight.
Well, apparently that is a common belief, but there is actually, and I don't know if you'll find this interesting, but there was a little segment on HBO's Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. They do a series of segments called How Is This Still a Thing? And one of the topics for one of them was daylight savings. And apparently it turned out it was sort of an effort to save fuel during, I think, one of the world wars. And it's been a regular thing ever since then.
I had not heard that version before. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if I recommend it. It gets pretty, I don't know if snarky is the correct word, a pretty angry, aggressive humor going on about how dumb it is,
Yeah, most people, when daylight savings rolls around, all I see is complaints.
Yeah, and when it all adds up, it's probably like sort of a preaching to the choir, as they say.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't know if, let's just say they stopped doing daylight savings altogether. Would they stop after they set the clock an hour forward again or an hour back?
Hmm. Sounds like a good question there. Yeah. So you're asking if there wasn't that time change or time shift, would they move it one way or the other? You're asking?
Yeah, it's like if they had to go one way or the other permanently, how would they figure that out?
Oh, yeah. Well, I really have no idea.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe that can be a future topic of discussion.
Oh yeah, yeah. That might be an idea. And of course, you're an admin on my list of topics now, my Google Doc. So feel
Yep.
free to add anything in anytime you want.
I will definitely look into that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So why don't we continue on now
Okay.
into our main topic, which Jordan picked from my lengthy and and possibly overwhelming list for either of us, I suppose.
Well, that may be
And
true,
he,
but while you did make a huge list, we did go over it over the course of several days. So it's not like we looked at the whole thing at once.
no, we took our time. We certainly took our time.
Yeah, which is better than rushing it.
Yeah, yeah. They say art can't be rushed.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So, after some discussion, we landed on for today our first episode the topic of our celebrities and fictional characters
Mm-hmm.
models. And we've been previewing this. We've made a rough video to kind of introduce this. So, and I think the thing that really got me to sort of brainstorm this topic up was a sort of, I guess, politically at least, controversial statement that was made by the former basketball star Charles Barkley
Mm-hmm.
when he said that I'm not a role model. Athletes shouldn't be role models, and and I think that was the particular thing, if not the only thing that inspired me to think that topic up.
Well, that's certainly interesting because really, you can get inspiration from anyone practically anywhere. So I don't know where he got the idea that he wasn't a role model to someone.
Yeah, I guess in in a way, his heart behind that. I guess was possibly that maybe he was maybe sub or unconsciously mixing the terms role model and idol, and
Okay.
trying to say that stars maybe shouldn't be idolized. I don't know this, but that's just a guess for me.
Well, it's entirely possible. Maybe he just wanted to keep himself from having a big ego because some people who like being the star or the center of attention, they'll let it go to their head and it just makes them lose all respect from other people. Like a good example of this that comes to my mind is Tom Brady, the formerly quarterback of the Patriots, now the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I know. I've heard you talk about him before. Yeah.
Yeah, he is a good player, but his ego is bigger than Mount Everest. Like if something goes wrong, he blames it on other people. If he wins, he takes all the credit, and he's not afraid to cheat and try to hide it. So while he's good, I have no respect for him.
So you're very convinced that the deflate gate, excuse me, accusations were accurate.
Yeah, because the biggest thing that threw me off was when he said he didn't notice that the balls were deflated when he's arguably the person who has them in his hands the most above anyone else.
So
And
you
that's not
So you don't think it's sorry? So you don't think it's not possible that um, that he didn't have access? Might have. I think I just might. Sorry, I just think I had a poor connection there. So you think that it's not possible that he didn't have any way of getting his hands on the balls before the game or something?
I feel like it's highly unlikely. And even if he didn't have them beforehand, like he was still using them several times through the games, at least most likely, because they use their own balls from what I understand. And when someone from the other team might have intercepted it or something, they're like, hey, something feels off. And that's kind of what kickstarted the whole Deflategate thing. So I'm thinking, if this guy noticed, how did Tom Brady not? And then even when they talked about it and he denied all accusations, like there's no way this can be legit. And then I might have eventually thought maybe he didn't notice, or maybe I could let that one slide, but that wasn't the only time, nor would it be, that he and his team were shown to be breaking rules or cheating in some way.
I suppose you could maybe make one case or another where you could maybe argue that because he's used to having an NFL football in his hand, then he should have noticed a difference, or you could maybe say that maybe because he was used to holding them, he didn't really think of a difference, or I don't know.
I mean, it's entirely possible, but I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying, in my personal opinion, it just seems highly unlikely.
So you think he must have known something? That's your thought?
I figure he would more than likely have had some involvement somewhere. Like, even if he didn't actually deflate the balls himself, he might have been aware of it.
And gone along with it?
Yeah. Again, not saying that he actually did do it, but that's a distinct possibility.
Maybe. You may be right about that. So, you said you had a list.
Yes.
Of was it stars and characters or just one of the two?
Two separate lists, one for like actual people and then one for fictional characters.
Oh yeah. I'm interested to hear what you've got and how they've impacted you or affected you. You want to go ahead and go into that?
Yeah, the one I like to point out most, and I've been talking about this guy with a few friends recently. He's a voice actor named Vic Mignogna.
I think he's the guy that I read that you wrote a post about, and I think the guy he's the guy in your Facebook profile photo, right?
Yep, that's him. He's done several big roles in big shows or movies. Apparently, he's a good singer too, because I ran into somebody on a fan page of his that had a Spotify playlist of him doing a lot of music. So I'm going to be looking at that later on. But the story, which also appeared in the post that you mentioned just now, that I like to bring up is when I met him in person.
Right.
Because up to that point, he had been undergoing some tough, situations. Because around the time the latest Dragon Ball movie came out, where he played the titular character, he got hit by several accusations that over time just seemed to be not true. But he's still in a rough spot dealing with those things. He's trying to get an appeal in a court case or whatever. Anyway, I'm kind of going off topic.
Oh, no, no. Well, let it go where you want.
Okay. Um, and I was kind of on the fence because I didn't know him personally. I hadn't seen much of him prior to that, but I got the chance to meet him in person when he came to our city of Rochester. And I got to say, from my personal interaction with him, he just seemed like the most genuine guy ever. Like he was constantly smiling. He was making jokes. Uh, I had drawn a picture of Broly, which is the character that was in that movie that he voiced, for him. He looked at it. He admired it. He started to slide it back to me because he thought that I was just showing it to him. But I told him it was for him, and he just like stood there with a dropped jaw for like a good 5 seconds, and then just goes, "Can I have your autograph?"
So it's kind of like he was starstruck himself.
Yeah, in a way. So I actually did get a marker from him, signed my name on the picture, and he took it with him. It was the coolest thing.
That's right. So you've got a fan with a big voice acting profile.
Yeah,
That's
you
cool.
could say that. And then I saw him the next day, and I told him about Artists Unlimited, the theater. Excuse me, I cannot talk today. The theater group that you and I are a part of. And for those listening that don't know what Artists Unlimited is, it's a theatrical group that allows those with disabilities to perform on stage. It is based in upstate New York, but we were hoping to spread it throughout the country eventually. So I told him about that group, and I figured this was a long shot, but when we were doing Shrek, I invited him to come see it when it was performing. And he did say he ultimately was not able to because of like travel and the time it would take him, whatever. But hopefully, the next time I see him and when artist is able to do shows again, like I would just be willing to pay for all his travel expenses because I really would think he'd love to see this group.
I don't know. Can you afford that, you think?
It ultimately probably not, but it's wishful thinking.
At the least, yes.
Maybe I can get some supporters to back me up. We'll see.
Uh,
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Kickstarter.
Yeah, or like a GoFundMe or something. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. All right. So, what about some other ones that you wrote down?
Sure. I'll if this would work for you, I'll go back and forth between like actual people and fictional characters to kind of keep a variety.
And that would probably keep the two fresher in the audience's minds, probably.
Yeah. And if you ever have people or characters that you want to bring up, please feel free to do so. Let's see who was first on my list. I wrote superheroes in general. It's not like one specific one, but a good chunk of them, like say in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, for example. Like
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen a lot of the Marvel films, have you?
I've seen like Age of Ultron, Ant Man, Spider Man, which is probably by far the standout, the one I really probably got into because I think that was just mainly because I don't think it had anything to do with the action
Okay.
necessarily or superhero story. I think it was just mainly because of how I kind of related to Peter, that guy, you know, he's a teenager wanting to be noticed and wanting to be like the object of affection of the cool girl or I guess something like that. Yeah. So I guess that storyline, and though it is kind of weird, weird that he would have that interest in Mary Jane because I don't know what he saw in her except she was popular and pretty, and that was pretty much it. But I think a lot like myself can maybe relate to that nonetheless, I think.
Oh yeah, I feel like a lot of people could, and I think that's what makes Tom Holland. Let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? Like such an appealing portrayal of Spider-Man because he's kind of actually I think he's really close to my age, relatively. But like he's a relatively young guy, and he can portray a young guy, and that allows him to connect with a lot of younger audiences. Like the way he talks, the way he behaves, it really struck a chord with a lot of people, and most people that I've talked to after he really had a chance to portray Spider-Man were saying he might have been the best portrayal of Spider-Man so far, but that could be a topic for another day.
Like Tom Holland's performance as Spider-Man?
Well, yeah, his general performance as Spider-Man, a lot of people, especially when comparing him to like Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire, they felt like he seemed the most genuine, I guess. Like he just seemed like he could be the actual Spider-Man.
And I suppose part of that might be, for the one thing, before Spider-Man, I know Maguire did that movie Pleasantville, and so I imagine people might have been weirded out and thought, what? That guy from Pleasantville's doing this? I don't know. It's just a thought in my head, at least.
Well, I also think, from my personal viewpoint, that those three people, I'm only talking about like live action Spider-Man here, not the cartoon ones. But
Sure.
I feel like each of those three actors have nailed some aspect of Peter and or Spider-Man. Like Tobey Maguire, I felt like, especially when reading some of the comics in comparison, he portrayed like the geeky side of Spider-Man, like the Peter Parker aspect, just like really well.
And I guess a lot of that had to do with, how much of the material they really derive from the comic book series. And I think particularly there was one particular issue, and I told you about my friend Colby Dick, who has his own web series, and
Yep.
he did a thing on the first Spider-Man feature and talked about how it rooted a lot from one particular issue, the Death of Gwen Stacy issue.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I guess. In a way that may have helped it.
Yeah, definitely. And when it came to the Andrew Garfield films, I felt like they tackled some of the darker aspects of Spider-Man, and in its own universe, it worked really well, at least to me. Like the second one had a little too much going on, but it still did some things well.
Including shooting in Rochester.
Yeah, that was cool. When they announced that they were going to do that, I was really excited. I never personally got to go see the set itself, but a friend of mine who collects a lot of comics, he had the opportunity to do so. And no pun intended, he was marveling at everything that was there.
Yeah, I think that's kind of clever there. You said marveling.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I saw an interview with Jimmy Fallon where Garfield was probably promoting Amazing Spider-Man 2, and they showed a clip from it. It looked like it was the sequence that they did or one of the sequences they did in Rochester. I'm not sure, but it might have been, considering the background.
Well, I think the scene they shot for Amazing Spider-Man 2 took place near the beginning of the film where they had that whole chase scene and he was pulling those man, I haven't seen this movie in a while. Like these capsules that had this special serum or formula in it. Like he was trying to get those out of a truck. But
So it was like Rogue One on Earth.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. It was pretty much a chase scene, but just the fact that it was filmed very close to where we are, like I was freaking out in all the best ways.
Yeah, and probably felt a swelling of hometown pride for a season.
Definitely. Although when the movie did come out, it wasn't very well received, critically speaking, but just the fact that we had a movie of that scale here, yeah, that hometown pride really kicked in.
Yeah, so where were we? More people on your list?
Yeah, sure. Let's see, who would be a good one? The next one I had under Vic. This guy's name is Doug Walker, but he's known across the internet as the Nostalgia Critic.
Does he have a YouTube series?
He doesn't have a YouTube channel of his own per se, at least not one called Nostalgia Critic, but he can be found on a YouTube channel called Channel Awesome, and the logo is like a satellite behind a red circle or something.
Yeah, Channel Awesome. I might look into that.
Yeah, he's arguably the most viewed part of that channel, but they do have several other series. He is basically a guy who comedically critiques films. Like he'll spend about like 20 minutes on a movie, usually in a comedic style, talking about some of the things he likes or doesn't like, maybe adding a couple skits in there to add to the humor.
Or
Like
little role playing scenes in between.
yeah, as if it was part of the movie, kind of spoofing or parodying it, making fun of it even.
Satirizing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah.
he would, for example, oh, what would be a good example of that?
That reminds me of I don't know if you've heard of the YouTube personality Scott Kramer.
Does he have an alias on the internet?
Oh, he goes by his name Scott Kramer on YouTube.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Yeah, and he's from Fargo, North Dakota. Not that that's relevant to anything, but
Okay.
he does a web series. I saw quite a few videos of where he pretty much played a bunch of video and inserted some comedic stuff in between. I think I'd be careful because you listen or watch it too much, it might rub off on you. But it's pretty creative and funny, entertaining.
All right. Send me a link later. Maybe I'll check it out. But
Yeah,
the other reason.
I was just saying, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. But the other reason I wanted to bring Doug Walker up, or Nostalgia Critic, I could refer to him as either one, is that he was another guy I met in person. I had met him when he came to Syracuse.
Yeah, it's where my dad was born and raised.
Oh, nice. And he was by himself at the time. Like he didn't have any of the other people that's on his channel with him. But I met him. He was really nice. And this was before the Sonic the Hedgehog movie came out, because I asked him, since I was like a big Sonic fan, if he wanted me to help review it so that he could, for example, look at the movie from a movie critic's perspective, and then I could look at it from a Sonic fan's perspective to see if there's similarities or differences in our opinion. He was grateful, but he ultimately declined, understandable enough. And then what was really cool is that towards the end, like our friend Dalton, he's
Yes,
a big fan of
Dalton
him
Letta.
too. Yep.
Pardon me for a second. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Dalton Letta is also a part of Artists Unlimited, and he's a veteran of the program like Jordan is. And he was Shrek in our production of Shrek, and he is also president of an organization. Maybe we'll put a link to it. Campaign D, of which Jordan is the VP.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. I mean, I stepped down for a little bit, but I still interact with them. I might take the position back at some point, depending on how things go with like my career or where I move to at some point. But I still work with them on a close level. So you could kind of say I'm still the VP, but yeah, I just felt like I'd clear that up really quickly.
All right. So, what were you saying about related to Dalton?
Yeah. So Dalton is also a big fan of this guy. So since Dalton couldn't be there to meet him, I asked the Nostalgia Critic if he would be up for like doing a quick video to give a shout out to him so that Dalton at least had something. Now, normally, if you take photos or videos with somebody at a convention or like a celebrity or whatever, they will charge you for it, which makes sense. But he didn't do that. I was like, hey, Dalton, my friend Dalton, he's a big fan of you, but he wasn't able to be here today. Could you do a quick video just saying hello to him or something? And without charging us, he did it. So Dalton got a special message from him, and we got a good laugh out of it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that must have felt nice.
Yeah, Dalton very much appreciated it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you got other ones you can talk about?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. We just did a real person. So moving on to fictional, and somebody I have here is Goku, the main character of the Dragon Ball franchise. And the reason I put him there on the list was primarily for his tenacity, because I don't know who does or doesn't watch Dragon Ball, but it's an anime series that is centered around combat, like fighting.
I don't watch it. I never have.
Which is perfectly fine. And I won't try to explain it because it's usually just easier if you see the series. But
We probably got Wikipedia for that. That's probably sufficient.
yeah, Wikipedia or some other page that talks about that kind of stuff. But he is a character that whether he wins or loses, he always strives to get better. Like even if he's beaten to a pulp, he'll come back later on stronger and or more determined than ever to claim victory. Like the most recent series, Dragon Ball Super, they were literally fighting for the sake of their universe, like he and a few of his allies. And through his determination, he was able to attain a new level of strength. And while he didn't win the whole thing himself, spoiler alert, I should have said that, his team overall did. And it was because of his determination and him putting trust in his allies and vice versa that they were able to come out on top. And I feel like that's a really inspirational message to take from that, where even if you're not a fan of Dragon Ball, just the idea of teamwork or putting your faith in other people or working to get better over time, that's just something I feel like we can all take from.
And you feel like that that rubbed off on you, that made you want to kind of conduct yourself the same way and keep striving to improve and grow and or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much. And ultimately, it was through that series that I learned about who Vic was, because he played a character in that series.
Oh well, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there a particular reason? Kind of an ice-breaking question. Is there a particular reason that that you have such a big interest in anime, and I know you did that one that cover of the Japanese. I think it was the Japanese version of Try Everything from Zootopia. Do you know if you have any Asian DNA?
Honestly, I don't know if I do. I know I have blood in other things, but I don't know about that. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it started with just how their language works or anything, but I've for years have had interest in Japanese culture, like there are, or just how things work in their countries. And I've always wanted to visit Japan. Uh, but in terms of my fascination for anime, I think it's a similar reason for like cartoons or just most fictional characters that I like. It's that they often show, like, a lot of them have human elements to them, but at the same time, they show a lot of these characters doing things that I only wish I could do, like flying or super strength or shooting energy from my hands or just doing something to instantly power up and get stronger. So I kind of put myself in those characters, if that makes sense. Like one thing I like to do when I'm watching an anime or a cartoon or a movie or something that I've seen multiple times is while watching, I'll imagine myself somewhere on the screen doing something alongside these characters. So you could say it really sparked my imagination, I guess.
Okay. No. Kind of a curious icebreaker question there.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So, I'm guessing you've got more lists that we could maybe go through.
Oh yeah, I've got a few left. Let's see. There's quite a few I wrote down. One that I could bring up is John Cena.
Oh yeah, I know him. I'm familiar with him. Yeah. I haven't probably watched as much of him as the next guy, but I've watched American Grit. I've seen a couple or so hefty commercials, which were probably pretty cheesy in my mind, and probably aren't. Let me just say, people, I don't think at least one of them is the most family friendly when you look at it. I'll say that, and for reasons that I don't know if I want to explain on recording, I guess I'll leave it at that.
Sure. He's done several ads. The most recent one I've seen is for this thing called Experian, where he is often next to a purple cow.
I might have seen that or something. I think was like a dog show or something. I could be wrong.
There were multiple ads. One of them did involve him bringing that cow onto the floor of a dog show as if he were competing. I think their most recent one, there was a couple people getting brainwashed, and he throws a chair through a lab window to kind of burst in an epic fashion and then tell them, hey, you're being brainwashed. This is what you should do. It was kind of spoofing like spy flicks. It was actually kind of funny, I'm not going to lie. But the main reason I thought of putting John Cena on the list is because I read somewhere. Do you know what Make-A-Wish is?
Oh yeah. I think I saw a video of Watch Mojo where they're counting down a list of top 10 like charitable contributions or charity involvements, and it's like I think one of the entries was like 1,000 or whatever number it was wishes granted with Make a Wish, John Cena.
Yeah, that's
My memory
pretty
may
much
be
why.
my memory may be wrong, but I think it's probably close though.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because the main reason I put him on the list was because I don't know if he still does, but last I checked, he had held the record for the most Make-A-Wish wishes fulfilled. Like, because there were just so many people that wanted to meet him.
And just to like seeing that generosity or whatever, yeah, you'd say that rubbed off on you.
Yeah, and you could say, I don't know why I said that. You could go on to like YouTube or various other video-based websites and just look up John Cena's interactions with fans and just watch their faces as they see him for the first time. Like there's an infamous one where this kid is like introducing him the way a wrestler announcer might, and John Cena bursts through the wall behind him, and the kid just starts freaking out. But then there's another one where there's a picture of John Cena on a banner behind this kid, and this kid was saying something. I forget what it was. And this one's actually kind of used in memes a lot. But as this kid's talking, he takes the outline of his own head off the banner and sticks his own head there. And he goes, "Are you sure about that?" And the kid's like, "Wait a minute, I know that voice." Turns around, sees his head poking through the banner, and just starts screaming in excitement. It was so cool.
Yeah, if you want to see like more moments of down to earth celebs, maybe you might want to see WatchMojo's. They did two. WatchMojo.com did two top 10 lists of surprisingly down to earth celebs, and there's a bunch of them, fairly familiar names like Matt Damon, The Rock,
Yep.
Adele, bunch of them.
Yep.
Some might surprise you.
Yeah, I think I've seen those, or at least various other videos that were compilations of celebrities surprising their fans. I know there was one where I think it was Selena Gomez. She actually showed up in this fan's house. Like this girl was filming in her room. I don't know if she was talking about Selena Gomez or not, but she showed up in the door behind her, and she was stunned for a moment because it's like, why is Selena Gomez in the footage with me? So she turns around and she's standing there. It's like anyone who's willing to take time out of their day to show up at your house is just amazing.
And do a video bomb. That's kind of makes it probably extra memorable.
Oh, definitely. I doubt that person's going to forget it.
Yeah, so did you think of any others?
Well, you did mention The Rock briefly, like Dwayne Johnson, and he is someone I did have on the list for kind of similar reasons, but he's another one of those cases where a professional wrestler has started to do a lot of acting stuff. And that's admirable to me because it shows that he's doesn't have to be known for just one thing.
Yeah, and sports careers probably, from what I understand, they don't tend to last that long, so they kind of, so a lot of them probably have to find something to fall back on when that career has to come to a halt or something, you know.
Oh yeah, like NFL players, for example, they get paid by the millions pretty much, but most of them retire by the time they get to their 40s.
Yeah, I think it's more like their mid-20s because it's like I know it's like I think of Donald Jones, former Bills wide receiver, and I mentioned my personal experience with him in my list of 25 facts that you might have seen in my Google Doc.
Sure.
And yeah, and we'll probably make a video talking and mentioning those 25 facts sometime in the future, probably.
Sure.
But anyway, I know that Jones was in his 20s when he retired. I guess primarily because of increasingly intense complications with his kidney.
Mm.
And he mentioned in his autobiography, and I know in a book by Tony Dungy that I have, he mentioned that the average NFL career is 3.3 years.
Wow, that's honestly surprising. I could have sworn they were longer than that. I mean, granted, they still get paid a lot, so by the time they retire anyway, they're set for life. But
Well, I know Jones mentioned that he came on as an undrafted free agent, had to
okay,
sign the basic rookie. He had to sign the basic rookie deal of like 3 seasons at 1.3 million,
wow,
and he got like the average minimum of like 420,000 a year, and he said that was before all the deductions like the taxes and endorsement money, and after that it was some level less than that even.
well, I guess you get paid a lot more if you're one of the bigger players or something.
Or if you're playing at a higher level, maybe, or doing well, winning championships, something like that.
Yeah, like the aforementioned Tom Brady. I'm sure with his records that he gets paid handsomely. Like he and see, that's the reason I thought careers lasted longer than they do, because he and Peyton Manning, not Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. That's a guy who I was thinking of. They were, I believe, the two oldest quarterbacks in the NFL. They were both in their 40s, and I think Drew Brees just retired, but Tom Brady's still going.
Yeah. From the impression I got from Jones's autobiography, I guess, is the duration of your career really depends on how consistently that you're achieving winning seasons, or making big plays or whatever. It's really
True.
it's really, if you're not winning a lot, you're not going to last long, or
No.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, as we were saying earlier, The Rock, who we were talking about, I just love his versatility in that he can be a sports guy, but he can also be a live action or a voice actor. Like he's done several. I don't know if he's done several disaster movies, but he's done at least one or two that I can think of. Uh, in terms of voice acting, I know he was Maui in Moana, and that was a big one for him. But yeah, I just like that he is keeping himself from being typecast or just being known as one thing.
Yeah, now that reminds me of you probably, I don't know if you remember or ever saw like Ray Romano on Parenthood.
I haven't seen him on that. I've seen him on other stuff.
Yeah, like just pretty much the whole world remembers him as Ray Barone,
Right.
and the funny guy, and then he goes and does this serious role on Parenthood, and a lot of people must have been really surprised. I was, maybe at least a little bit.
Yeah, I got to respect people who can pull that off, where they just break off from the characters they're typically known for. I think Adam Sandler is another good example, because I know he's known for being like this ridiculous, goofy guy, but I believe in the past few years, I forget what the character's name was or what the movie it was from, but
But
he
it was something
played.
serious. There was
Oh
something
yeah,
serious though.
it was a serious character, and people were like, "Wow, he can actually do this!" Like they were just caught off guard by how well he was able to portray a serious person.
I never would have pictured something like that with Sandler.
Yeah, if I
with
could just tell you what it was, then Like if I could just remember, I'd tell you. But maybe if you IMDb it and then look up his filmography, you might be able to find it. I think it was in the last 3 or 4 years. I know the character had like glasses and a beard. I'm pretty sure, but that's all I can remember, honestly.
No, Steve Carell's probably the best example I can think of. Going from stuff like the Germans Who Say Nice Things sketch and The Office to more serious films like Beautiful Boy and
Yep.
the Foxcatcher, which I didn't see. I saw an interview with him and a clip on 60 Minutes, but I didn't see, and I didn't see all of Beautiful Boy, but a little bit of it. But he's a good example. Someone who can handle both well, I would say.
Sure. Even Jim Carrey, who's commonly known as like the king of goofy, or like the guy who's known for being a guy who portrays silly characters.
Personally, I think he takes it too far.
He definitely can sometimes. Actually, now that I think about it, the Nostalgia Critic, kind of connecting these two, he recently started a series called Career Dive, I think, where he goes into the history of some actors and how they got started, where they are now. The first one he did was Jim Carrey, and it was actually quite fascinating because, yeah, he's known for doing goofy characters. Some of them didn't do so well, and he kind of fell off the map a little bit for a while, but in recent years, he started to come back a little bit. Like when, for example, when he played Robotnik in the Sonic movie, a lot of people were like, he brought back his old charisma, and I love it.
Redemption.
Yeah, I think that role earned him a spot on one of Watch Mojo's lists where they were like top actors that. How did they phrase it?
Redeem their careers or something.
Yeah, like redeem their careers or restored it,
or made a comeback.
Just one role. Yeah, made a comeback with just one role or something like that.
Yeah, that's the kind of story that kind of sticks out in people's heads, probably.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I don't know if I could really think of something serious that I know that Jim Carrey did, except maybe I don't know if this is comedic or serious. The Majestic, which again I haven't seen. I've just seen like advertising for.
Well, yeah, that's perfectly fine, and I haven't seen too many of his more serious films myself. Like I grew up liking the more silly stuff, so I've seen him do like The Mask or the Riddler and Batman or something to that equivalent. But people have told me he can, or at least has the ability to play a serious character. Like I think even in The Mask, while he's not serious the entire time, when he doesn't have the mask on, he does have a sort of relatably serious sort of persona while still throwing a little bit of goofiness in there. But it was a nice mix.
All right, so yeah, you got any more?
I have some more. Like I did put Naruto from the anime of the same name, but he's kind of on there for the same reasons as Goku. Like he just constantly strived to get better. Really, the last thing I had on here was kind of like a sub list of big name YouTubers that I watched that have had a good effect.
So kind of like an honorable mentions list.
Yeah, kind of like a subcategory, you could say. Because
Yeah.
I could talk about YouTubers that have been inspirational for a while, but I could do maybe a brief synopsis of some of them.
Yeah. Whatever you're comfortable with, I guess. Like maybe at least name the names.
Yeah, or like I could talk a little bit about some of them, and then we can go into more detail in a later episode.
Yeah, maybe you could maybe add that to my list, maybe.
Yeah, sure. The first two I have listed here are kind of the two, or at least some of the giants on YouTube right now. The two or three I have written here, Markiplier and Jacksepticeye. Those are two that a lot of people know. I don't know if you know them personally.
Not at all, honestly.
Which is perfectly fine. I mean, there's people that haven't heard of PewDiePie, and he's like one of the biggest YouTubers out there, at least in terms of subscribers.
I've at least heard of him. I've at least heard of him, but maybe I don't know. I don't know if I've watched anything of his.
Or Jack and Mark, they used to kind of do the same thing PewDiePie did before they each started adding their own styles to things, but Jack and Mark started off being specifically known as like comedic YouTubers that do Let's Plays or like play video games. Like it often helps to tell people who Jacksepticeye is by saying he's the guy with the Irish accent. But yeah, not everybody knows who he is, and that's perfectly fine. But Jack and Mark and another guy, I want to say he's Dutch, but I'm not sure. His YouTube name is Jelly. Like those three, like Mark, Jack, and Jelly, they are all comedic video game Let's Players or whatever, and just how they are. Like I don't know how Jelly acts in person, but I commend them for their genuine, for the lack of a better word, behavior, because they're not the type of people whose behavior changes when they're off screen or when you see them in person. Like the way they are in their videos, which is like a goofy, humorous, but also they can be serious at times. They're like that in person too. It's like I just admire them for being able to do that and also having the outreach that they do to uplift the spirits of millions of other people. Because they are basically the reason I started YouTube to begin with, before I kind of started doing it a lot less frequently, was because I also, like them, wanted to be able to reach out to as many people as I could to make their days better, give them something to smile about. So yeah, they're I don't know what the adjective form of that is, but the way they are so genuine and just their overall persona are the reason I put them on the list. I know I kind of rambled a little bit there, but hopefully that made sense.
Just that they were giving of themselves and weren't afraid to be themselves, that kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. I think Jack, before he got really big, he kind of hid his naturally Irish accent, but that was more so because he figured people wouldn't believe he was being real. Like he didn't think people would be nice about it or be like, no, that's not what he actually sounds like. But once he started using his naturally Irish accent, people were like, I respect that.
No, he probably wouldn't want people to think, he's making fun of people. He probably wouldn't want that.
Or he's just being fake or something like that.
Yeah, so that's your whole list?
That was a couple of the YouTubers. Two more that I thought of in terms of YouTube musicians. Nathan Sharp, otherwise known as Nate Wants to Battle, and let's see, Jonathan Young.
Right, and Jordan has covered Nate Wants to Battle more than once on his own YouTube.
Yeah, most of the covers I've actually done in the past have been songs or covers that Nate Wants to Battle has done before, with I think even one or two of Jonathan Young's as well. But yeah, as I said, they're YouTube musicians. They mostly stick to the rock genre, although they do branch out a little bit. Nate usually does covers of, let's say, openings for anime or some video game stuff. And Jonathan Young has done that too, although he also was known for a while for doing rock versions of a lot of Disney songs. And surprisingly, most of them actually turned out really nice.
Yeah, I don't know if all the Disney songs, like all the big Disney movie songs, work in that sort of rock style. I mean,
Well,
I
some of them don't, but yeah.
I remember when I heard, I think it was like a really hard rock version of "Can You Feel the Love Tonight." I thought, uh, uh, this is dumb. Brother thought, I pretty much said to him, I remember I pretty much said to him, it sucks the meaning out of it. And my brother was like, there's no meaning to that song. I'm not sure why he thinks that, but that's what he said pretty much. I don't know.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot there for me. And honestly, like this could be another topic for another day, comparing the animated with the live action, but the live action remake of that song just made it worse for me.
Like are you talking about the official music video of it?
Oh, I'm talking about when it was in The Lion King. Like, even
When it
in
was,
the animated version, it just didn't do a whole lot for me, but the live action version just did less.
yeah.
But yeah, that's a thing. And then the last couple uh, YouTube channels that I listed here that also kind of can fit into a category of its own are I don't know if you've heard of either one of these, but they're Dude Perfect and Team Edge.
Dude Perfect, I think, and they have or have had a Nickelodeon series.
They did, yeah. I don't know if it's still running, but they
Yeah,
did
I
have it
don't
at
either.
least at one point. Like I didn't have Nickelodeon, so I never got to see it, but
I have had it. I don't know if I have it anymore since we switched to Sling, but I know when we had Spectrum, we had it, and I and more than once I would stream the Loud House on demand. Spectrum on demand was really easy for me.
I know at least one or two people that would absolutely love to talk about Loud House.
Oh yeah, who specifically do you think?
Well, the first one that comes on my mind, because she's talked about it a bit before, is our friend Jenna Diskin, who, by the way, for those that are listening, is also of common face in Artists Unlimited, who's done really well with her roles.
Yep, saw her for the first time in Mary Poppins. Well, that was really where I saw like probably a bunch of you guys on stage for the first time, and then like a few years later, I joined the club, and here I am now.
Well, we're very glad that you joined us. We had a great time doing it with you.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, yeah. It was nice getting to know you guys.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to do more shows soon so we can all get a little bit closer together.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
Dude Perfect and Team Edge. For those who don't know who either one of them are, they are both YouTube channels that are populated by multiple people. Like Dude Perfect is mainly centered around five guys who are mostly known for doing trick shots, but they have started to branch out into several other series, and most of them have actually been really popular with people. As for Team Edge, it's usually a group of 3 or 4 that often do challenges with each other, and some of them can get pretty creative. Like they have a warehouse and they have a big crew and everything, and that crew at one point, at least a couple times, built fully fledged escape rooms within that warehouse, and they were challenged to get out of it, and it was really fascinating. Like just the lengths they go to make some of these challenges just blows me away. But the main reason I put them on the list is that they all just seem to have so much fun with what they're doing, and they just love entertaining people in some of the most bizarre ways possible. And I feel like that really helps them stand out.
Yeah. So their creativity, you think, makes them stick out, you're saying?
Yeah, their creativity, the way they shoot their videos. And Team Edge, like they're all adults there, but they still have some childlike behaviors, which I honestly like, because it lets them know that or rather it lets people know that you don't have to be an adult 24/7. You still have that inner child inside of you, and they just have a lot of fun showing that off, for the lack of a better phrasing, because it just helps them add that special type of energy that just draws a lot of people in, if that makes sense.
Energy like that can be contagious at times. I will admit.
It definitely can. But that's pretty much what I had on my list.
Okay. So then I should maybe start talking about what I thought myself then.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just, I couldn't really think of someone who I took like positive influence from, well, at least not leading up to this recording.
Sure.
I was thinking, earlier today about, first person that came to mind was the aforementioned John Oliver, and basically, funny and maybe clever as his HBO show Last Week Tonight may be. It's it can be pretty, I guess, abrasive in the way that he makes his points. He seems like often angry. Which is probably like the go-to way to comedically confront something, I guess. But I think the more I entertained myself with that, I think the more it rubbed off on me and made me angry and prideful inside.
Oh yeah, it's even if that didn't happen, it's still good to stay informed and see a lot of things going on currently from different points of view, and he really makes his point or personal position known. Like he's not afraid to speak his mind.
Yeah, which is good, but I think sometimes he, maybe more than once, he has taken it too far, and
yeah,
I can think of at least one example, but I don't think I need to go into any details about it. And then I thought of, well, probably a more infamous entertainment figure, Bill Cosby.
Yep.
Just because I guess for a similar kind of reason, I feel like the more I listen to his material and listen to him ranting and going on tangents in his stand-up routine, maybe he made some good points, but but the way he communicated, was maybe a bit prideful, and I don't know if it maybe came from maybe trauma from his childhood, feeling abused at home or something. I don't know, but I just felt like that anger and I guess there was an ego underlying that rubbed off on me and affected how I thought and how I and maybe how I maybe that affected how I related to people or thought about myself. Maybe I thought about myself too highly as a result, you know.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there are, if I can think of them, maybe there are some examples of good influences I can personally think of.
I
Like,
mean, if you would like to, we could make this a multiple part series so that one day if we come back to this, then you might have some that come to your mind and we could talk more about those.
yeah, that is a good idea. Maybe we could come back for a part two and maybe
Maybe bring
yeah,
somebody
that's
else in the process.
yeah. If we can get someone to email or Facebook message us expressing that they're interested in joining us.
Definitely.
So yeah, so now for everyone, for anyone who wants to be part of this, just we've got our email address on our YouTube page and on our Facebook page. You can also Facebook message us. You can comment, ask questions, or tell us you want to be on the show if you know us well enough. Yeah. So this has been fun, and
Yeah, I had
I
a
think
great time.
yeah, me too. I think this has been an entertaining experience, and we may have learned a thing or two. And we'll get this up, or I'll get this up maybe on YouTube immediately, probably. And you can chime in, join the conversation. Anyone who wants to, and y'all get your rest, get ready for daylight savings, and take care of yourselves. And maybe we'll come back and continue this conversation with a part two. And until then, I guess we'll see you.
Yeah, sounds good. And like Seth said, reach out to us in the ways that he talked about. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those for us. We'll be glad to answer. And we hope to talk to all of you soon.
All right. Thank you all for listening or watching, whatever you're doing, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody.